usually waive the invocation and pledge at work sessions.
Mhm.
So we'll go on to new business, and let's review the attorney changes to bylaws. Y'all have that in front of you.
Hey, Alan.
I forgot what's being recorded.
So you guys might notice that there are more changes than what you requested. That is because this was previously done in June of 2024. I just don't know that they were ever adopted.
We did not,
So
not to my knowledge.
This
No,
is
I
your-
don't remember that.
June 2024 ones, and really the June ones from last year they just got rid of some duplicative language.
That's right. Any discussion on these bylaws?
I think the only one for me, and it's not a major one, but on page 2, let's see what plan, I think it's point 3 now, where it says vacancies in the offices of the commission. Do we just need to change that to planning commission so it'll be consistent throughout?
Sure, we can do that.
And I don't know if there's any other ones like that. I didn't see them, but I don't know if there's, just when you do a word search for checking that, but I didn't see anywhere else.
I can do a search too and just make sure when it's digital.
Anything else?
That was the only thing I saw in there. Again, I think most of the changes look like what I remember us making. I don't see anything that just stands out. Did you see anything in your review, attorney? Did you see anything when you were looking that's like, well, this is pretty major, we need to make sure everybody clearly understands? Most of it's
No.
just verbiage, getting the times right and the officer election and the cadence and, who the members are and that kind of stuff. I don't see anything major that I didn't remember us talking through.
There is one thing, if you look at public hearings, it's just got proponents and opponents will have an equal minimum time period to be no less than 10 minutes per side. Just pointing that out to you, because I think that we always, whenever we've got comments, we're always like, how long are they allowed to talk? So it's not anything we want to change, but here it is right in front of us, so maybe
Could
we'll
that
all
be no
remember.
more than 10 minutes instead of no
No.
less than?
I'm not a fan of a cap on it. I know like the commissioners meeting, I think is 3 minutes is technically, but
Right.
the chairman now and Chairman Ridley always yielded to whatever the public had to, as long as they were in order and I'm not a fan of a cap. I think that's the public's time to come address their boards,
Yeah.
and
What
it
would
could
you,
take longer than 3 minutes, obviously. I think 10 minutes is pretty fair, but
yeah.
um,
Would there be a cap? Should we put a cap, right, or we get into one, and I don't know that anybody would do it, right? But on the floor, if you get up to speak, you got it till you yield it, and so they just go for unlimited hours sometimes, just crazy stuff they do. Which they talk about stuff that's not
I
of
mean, I
value, in
don't-
my opinion.
Chairman of the board.
And I agree with you, maybe 10 minutes is not right, but 30 minutes, an hour, I mean, what is the cap? Yeah, and it's
Again, I
provided no
think that's-
questions are being asked or no
Yeah.
clarity is being sought or
I think
something.
it's just kind of at the discretion of the board and, the chairman at the time, where the conversation's going, and
Yeah,
I don't know.
I would hesitate to allow an unlimited amount of time because time is precious.
right.
So I think 10 minutes is more than what you would see in a lot of other arenas. So if you are content with 10 minutes, it is far more generous than I have seen in other areas.
It is very generous in terms of policy.
And I guess would you make it no more than 10 minutes? And again, back to my comment, if we're still trying to get answers to the questions, right, but if the board is settled and says, no further questions at that point.
Right.
Because maybe they took 8, 9 minutes to explain whatever they're doing, and then we don't get a chance to ask questions. Technically, if you cut it at 10 minutes,
Right.
but,
Well, that can be for each side, and questions don't have to count
Okay.
towards that. Question
Right.
and answer, especially if you reserve that to the end and let people do their pitch, and then reserve questions and answers to the end.
okay,
One thing, it's 10 minutes per side, so if you have 10 people that want to speak,
right.
you might have some extra considerations that you need to make at that time, or limit them to 3 minutes or 2 minutes per
Okay.
person. But you can do that when it's in front of you. Your policy can say no more than 10, or this says no less than 10.
But this
So in
says
that case-
as provided by the Georgia Zoning Procedures Act. So is this already law?
That it has to be the same amount of time. Whatever you give to the for, you have to give to the against. And they ask that it be no less than 10. So you can set it at a maximum of 10. That's not what this says, though. It says no less than 10 and equal on both sides.
So should we stop that sentence at a minimum time period? Stop that sentence and then set a time sequence? Because like what Adam's asking, is that full statement, is that Georgia Act, that statement?
Yeah, you
The
need that
10-minute
whole-
is included in the act as their statement?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we couldn't make it less than that, because then it wouldn't be compliant with the Georgia requirement. Is that
Right.
right? Okay. So if we did have 10 people wanting to speak, we couldn't say 3 minutes per side or 5 minutes per side.
No.
You had to give them at least 10 minutes per individual person, so it could be 100.
10
No,
minutes
not
per
per
side.
10 minutes per side, no matter how many, got it,
Yeah.
okay,
And 4, 10 against.
I got it.
If you got 20 speaking, 4 that's got,
Oh.
you could cut it off.
Each proposed decision, some of that I was reading like it was the person, so sorry.
And if it's particularly heated and you feel generous, and you can say, tonight we've allowed 15 minutes per side, please,
But then it follows, it
Conduct
says
yourselves
the proceeding
accordingly.
procedure will be followed until all persons have been given the opportunity to speak. So that makes me feel like it's 10 minutes per person.
it is not 10 minutes per person. You'll be here until tomorrow.
So how do you deal with that if the proceeding procedure will be followed until all persons have been given the opportunity to speak? Let's say each one of them theoretically got up there and took 10 minutes, then you could be, right?
You do, what I've seen done is you set a timer and you give all of those people 3 minutes or 2 minutes or 1 minute.
Yeah.
And they have to stop when the buzzer goes off. and
As long as
concede
each
to the
side
next
is
person.
awarded a minimum of 10 minutes.
Yes, as
Okay.
long as
Okay.
the for and the against get minimum of 10 minutes. You can let 20 people speak for 1 minute at a time, and it'll take 20 minutes, but the next side gets 20 minutes too.
Per person then, or whatever you did, okay. So I think we need to be aware then how many people are signed up to speak for and against before we start, and then establish, if there is a special requirement, we need to let people know that based on the number of responses, we're gonna provide 20 minutes per side,
Yeah.
right? If you got 10 people or whatever, and then, okay. All right, very good. I don't have any other.
Mr. Bozeman? Yes, sir. You got anything on that?
No, I got it.
All right.
Pretty simple, straightforward.
We'll see. All right, moving on to item number 2, review attorney changes to camper ordinances.
But before we move on to that, we're just working on these. They'll be presented at the next meeting, then we'll vote on them, right? No need to do anything tonight. Okay,
And then they'll go to the board for the board to
Got it.
affirm.
okay.
The Board of Commissioners. Y'all are a board too. I gotta use a full sentence. I don't know how much you all want me to talk, but I just wanted you to know that we highlighted the portions that we changed with the things that were discussed at the last meeting. So everything but yellow is stuff that you've seen. And the yellow is just the suggestions from the prior meeting.
So as we discussed, it was kind of my intent, my thought on this, that the permit, if you will, would actually be their registration for the year, not anything they would have to purchase or receive from your office, but they would have to have that registration in effect to be able to come get this building permit to put a septic tank in, power pole and all that. And there again, they would have to keep that registration valid. I don't know how that's gonna be policed or, not gonna be somebody just driving around checking on it, right? But somebody reports that somebody's living in a recreational vehicle and they don't have all these things in place, then that's not valid. It's not permitted for them to be there. I'm not a fan of charging a permit fee for somebody that's already paying taxes and registration annually for a recreational vehicle. It's just an extra tax. I won't, that's just my opinion. So, but to go back to what we discussed earlier, they have to have permitted septic, and that all has to be approved through your office. But I don't think that we need to create additional paperwork or additional permits or anything like that for anybody to have to deal with. They just, when they buy their tag on their birthday or before their birthday, that's their credentials to get this.
Well, we have to sign off on an application and send it over to environmental health, or they won't even give them a septic permit.
That's right.
So it's still
But they
gonna
can't
be
come to your
extra
office.
paperwork for
I mean, I
us.
get that part is, but that's a building permit, if you will. So there will be fees for that. I'm talking about an annual permit for the recreational vehicle itself. I don't think there should be a permit for that. There's gonna be a permit fee to put in power, septic, whatever. I mean, everybody that builds a house has to do that, right? That was kind of my thought on that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think every year there should be a recurring fee once you get the proper paperwork done to all the things we just talked about. I think there's only a couple issues I have, and it's really not issues, it's just I want some clarity. Where it says in any district, again, this is the thing that concerns me a little bit, is what do you do when, let's just, again, hypothetically, you got a subdivision, got 20 lots in it, it's got one lot open, fully built out, fully finished, and somebody comes and drops a RV in there, right? They don't have any HOA, HOAs don't exist, all that stuff anyway. So how do you make sure that the intent of this is clear?
I am unable to find a county that allows this to happen. So I cannot give you comparable answer.
Right.
I don't know that you can. If you are going to let them do this, then you would have to restrict it to specific areas, but you don't necessarily have subdivisions restricted to certain residential areas so that we can exclude them from those.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Well, that subdivision plat, it has a minimum square footage for that plat, of a residential home. So, I
But-
mean,
Yeah. And you don't have minimum square footage in an RV.
correct, so it doesn't qualify to build a home in that subdivision, so it wouldn't be in that district. That's how you eliminate that.
Yeah. Minimum square footage requirements. I think that's the next thing you run into.
That's, well, yeah, I mean,
But the subdivision plat specifically
a
states,
subdivision plat itself, there's notes and things on there, it states what's there,
right,
would hold you as far as that goes.
and does that apply since that's a note on a subdivision plat versus what's in the ordinance? Because typically, a lot of times, they'll want, 2,700 square foot homes or whatever it is they're after. Would that cover it since there's a 1,000, I'm making up a number, 1,000 square foot or 1,400 square foot minimum, but the subdivision has set it at 27? Would that stop you from then putting one in there because you've got a clear 2,700 above and beyond what's in the zoning ordinance?
Yeah, usually with a subdivision, there are covenants tied to the property that you have to follow before you can build. So you can't, that's what keeps subdivisions looking like subdivisions.
Then again, that's my concern,
Right.
is I think that's one of the things we gotta be, how do we properly do it? And again, if the requirement of the subdivision exceeds the county requirements, that becomes the standard.
Yes. So long as it's done exactly right.
Right. And I would be okay too with I guess, some term on this thing, right? That you can have it for up to, I don't know, 3, 5, 7 years, whatever number we're gonna maybe come up with. And at that time, it comes under review, right? If there's been nothing but complaints the whole entire time because this is in that kind of area. I mean, it's almost like if an annual complaint was filed, once every year, once every 6 months, whatever number you wanna make up.
It's 12 months right now, that's what line 3 says.
Oh, no, I was talking about like if, let's say I get the grant, right, and I got this permit and I got my camper set up. Let's say you live next to me and don't like it. Every year you have to come up here and file a complaint against it being non-compliant or whatever for 3 years, 5 years, then I had to go through some approval process. Again, I'm trying to figure out how to meet in the middle because I do understand why people want to do this sometimes. And then I understand why they have to do it sometimes. So I'm not a fan of just, no, you can't do it at all, but I'm also not a fan of for the next 40 years you can do it. So I don't know where
It really comes down to how you gonna tell a property owner what they can and can't do on their property.
Agree. Well, I mean, you already do it
We're
now.
We're already doing that, but
Yeah,
if a guy's got 100 acres and wants to, like the reference was used 2 weeks ago, buy a $500,000 motorhome and live in it,
right.
should we tell him no? Or tell him he can, but tell the guy that has an acre he can't?
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, I think we kind of do that now, right? If you don't have minimum 5 acres.
Well, right now, they just do whatever they want to do, and which has created a problem in the county, and.
I agree with
run
that.
down and-
Right.
I just worry about elders, because I'm an elder, I'm getting an elder, and my house is gonna be too big shortly. And then I gotta build a certain square footage on a certain lot of land. At 65 years old, I don't want 5 acre land. Most people wanna downsize. And you tie their hands in this county that you can't downsize, I gotta move out of this county to do something of it.
So I think going back to where we butted in and what the marshal was trying to do, the marshal wants to clean the county up. That's what he wants to do, right? So he wanted to create a blanket recreational vehicle ordinance, and which pretty much stated you can't live in an RV in Haralson County. And that's what I don't think some of us were in favor of making that blanket statement, because there's some people that will put a septic tank in, will put a power pole in and keep it nice and clean. They'll treat it just like they do their $500,000 house, you know? All while trying to give the marshal teeth to be able to go clean the dilapidated places up by saying you can't do it if you don't meet these, well, you know, criteria first.
Right.
So, but I hear you, I don't wanna see somebody buy, you know, Stedman Road, all them lots out there, and everybody buys a camper and put on it, and now we got a motor,
Right.
you know, RV park out
Right,
there.
because we don't need that.
What happens if somebody's got 5 acres and they put 10 of them on there? We don't have a limit as to how many.
I think it does say one,
It says one per
Oh,
parcel.
a single
Oh, okay.
recreational vehicle on a parcel.
But if you do have 10 1-acre lots down the street, then
Yeah.
you
You can do it.
can do whatever you want.
We just gotta figure out how to make every person in the county happy at the same time.
Well, I don't think that's a job we can accomplish, but,
Hadn't been
yeah. How do we,
once a year.
yeah. How do we do what's right in the best interest of the community and of the county? Is the question. I think you gotta be somewhere in the neutral ground there.
And I get what you're saying about a yearly fee or whatever, but I'm trying to read in here to see where, I mean, you can set that fee for $1, but where somebody comes in and does all this and 6 months later takes and does something different, how are you gonna be able to check to see the comparison of the two that's there? I don't see in here where it's, when you wanna take that out every year, how are you gonna know what was granted the first time?
I don't care if it's $1 or $1,000, it's still additional taxes that we're assessing on people that are already paying their taxes, right? We sell somebody a building permit, they build a house, they do everything right, the inspector goes out there and signs off on it, they live in it as long as they want to and as long as they pay their taxes. Until there's a problem, nobody
Their
goes out there.
taxes go up with improvements to the property. And if you put an RV, then you're not improving the property, so your taxes will never go up. And the county will never see any benefit from that RV.
I mean, the property tax is gonna go up.
But it's not to the same degree as once you've made improvements on the property.
I agree, but their resale value
Well-
ain't gonna go up either.
I believe, like I said, I got a camper, and if I was gonna put my camper out there, I'd build a pavilion over it. Cause it ain't gonna last long in the weather.
That's right.
And then you're gonna, you know, if you go to the lake, everybody's got a deck built out there, they build a lanai on it or some kind of sunroom or something. They gonna do improvements, you just ain't gonna stay in that little area. You're gonna use that place to sleep, but you're gonna have a place to go outside and sit and hang out. When you go to lake lots, that's what they got. So there would be improvements. But, you know, like I say, I think it would have to be landscape, you know, not just a camper poured out in the middle of a lot and just sitting there. I believe it needs to be
I think
landscape.
it's either all or nothing, personally. It's just, I don't know how you,
Well, let me ask this, would the committee be in favor of a term? And
I know nothing, campgrounds, when I go campgrounds, the first thing I ask you is what year model's your camper?
that was the other thing I was gonna get to, because you can't move a mobile home, and you can't move a manufactured home in here, it's more than 20 or 10 years old or something.
So that's what I was getting about, how you can checks and balances every year.
Yep.
So one ain't traded out to one to
Can't be
another.
older than 10 years old or 5
if
years
it's
old.
older than a certain year, you can't.
I wouldn't put a certain year because this is gonna be, they're gonna get older as the, you know, ordinances are gonna stay the same.
Yeah.
So we'll have to.
Well, I meant
put
like 10 years,
5 years old
if
or
it's 10 years old, then you can't, you can no longer permit it to, and I don't, then you would have to go through your office with the permit, because the tag office ain't gonna check, to see where they're traveling with it, or?
Again, right, the easiest thing to say no, but I don't know that's the right thing. So now I think just working through the details of how we'll meet the intent.
And how you get around the zoning.
No RV over 5 years old, 10 years old? What, let's just get a starting point there.
You could motivate them with this. The older it gets, the higher it gets.
Maybe better to let the marshal do what he's trying to do and see how that plays out.
And again, we're talking residential permit now, not I'm gonna pull in here and hook to it and stay 30 days. We're talking about long-term kind of thing now.
Yeah, I don't think we're talking about like if your in-laws come down from wherever and they want to park in your yard and run off a generator.
Right.
Say you got a plug somewhere they can plug, for a week, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, it's not this.
But when you go out, you ride by and see somebody set up shop in a 24-foot
car
travel
plugs the
trailer,
road.
then
Yeah.
the marshal's gonna tell them you gotta get out.
Yeah. You make the setbacks far enough where it'll have to be a bigger piece of property.
Well, it says in compliance with the districting, so the setbacks technically would be the setbacks. Like you would have to put the RV where you would put a house on the lot.
Yeah.
That's the intent. So if it doesn't read that way, y'all need to
Oh.
let me know.
I guess I was talking about again, a special guideline for this type of thing, that it has to meet some requirement of setback to receive a residential permit.
Almost be a conditional use.
Right.
So if I moved in this county and wanted to build a house, 1,000 square foot house, how many acres of land would I need? Is it a mandatory, if I moved into this county and wanted to build 1,200 square foot house, how much land would I have to have? Is there you said a minimum of 5 acres?
Well,
Depends on what
it
you're
depends, yeah.
We have R1, which is 3 acres, we have R2, which is 1 acre, R3 is,
5. isn't it?
no, A1 is 5. But it depends on what that property is zoned. That's how many acres you got there.
Or figure it out.
3, 1, and 2.
1, 2, and 3 is, it's 3, 1,
I
and 2.
think it's out of the hands of people, like I say, because, you start out in a hole, 5 acres or whatever it is.
Yeah, 5 acres now. Cost you a little bit,
Yeah, you about $60,000-$70,000 in the hole.
right?
Not
Right out of
counting
the gate.
water and sewage and septic and everything else you want.
How much would a house cost you?
Well, it's a house, $100,000 house, it costs you anywhere from $100,000 to $300,000 to put in what you put in it. How you wanna set it up.
I mean, could you,
Well, I mean, if you tagged it to a conditional use, if you use that term right there, it means a use not ordinarily permitted within a given zoning district, but which may be permitted upon the imposition of conditions related to promotion of public health, safety, morals, general welfare, and designed to minimize the negative impact on surrounding lands. A conditional use must be approved in the same manner as a rezoning request prior to issuance of a permit.
so you're saying,
So I'm saying anybody wants one, they come to conditional use and you set it under conditional use that you can put it there.
I'm good with that.
How many you gonna hear in a month? But do you wanna protect it or do you wanna,
well, to Nicole's point, the land value don't go up unless you build a structure on it. So could we do it for a certain period of time and then require them to build a canopy over it, a permitted canopy, or some type of structure over it or whatever, like you were talking about, Bill, which would gain value to the property. But they can't just take pallets and stretch a tarp over the top of it, you know, it's gotta be permitted.
We could look and see if that's something, I don't know anywhere else where we tell people they have to do a specific thing to their property. I think that is almost counter to what you guys are arguing against right now.
I'm just trying to, I mean, well, you also don't know where we can tell people they can do something
Right,
like
I
this to
mean-
their property.
Right.
So, but also, I mean, the conditional use thing. So read that again.
You read it, I'm not a very verbal person.
That's not true.
I mean, if you did that,
So
at
you
least,
gotta
at least
apply-
there's gonna be a sign out there, lets all your neighbors know that it's what you're fixing to do, and then also the county's not permitted it, and then everybody else comes in here that's beside it, and then it's a
So,
whole nother deal.
So to obtain this, to be able to do this, you gotta apply and get approved for a conditional
You gotta be
use.
approved for that before you start that process.
And then starting this process, again, I agree with the running water, the sewage service, all that kind of stuff. That need, I mean, that just has to be done. There's not like a,
Yeah, that
Yeah,
would all
kinda
be
thing.
part of your
I think-
conditional use.
I think that even further helps the marshal. So, if that's what you think, expert witness back there?
I think on the one too, if you set the, I do think maybe we need to set a term for that conditional use though. And then they'd have to reapply for it. And if things have changed, subdivision's grown up around there and,
Yeah. It may or may not be granted again
Right.
at that time. Yeah, I'm fine with that. All we gotta do is make a recommendation.
Or you leave it as is, and it's 12 months for you to build your house. You don't build a house, it's gotta go. And you gotta have none of that.
18 months.
Is it 18?
Can you
read
renew
12
it
in
for 1
here.
year too, though? No?
That's what, that's the,
I think the temporary use right above that says no more than 12, but I think something about building of a home has a different, and I don't have all the stuff here. I think, yeah.
That's what you were referring to, was the building permit. And you were referring to the RV permit.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the 12 months is what I was reading, the temporary use permit.
I mean, you could do 12 months before you make them apply for a conditional use permit.
I do know there have been some people that have been moved out of places where they had been staying in an RV for a while, and I'm just going to express a concern that if you open this up as a thing that you allow, then you will draw this,
Yeah, I don't-
whereas you currently
Yeah.
are not drawing it
No.
because you don't necessarily allow it, but you don't necessarily disallow it yet. This began as an opportunity to disallow it, but once you make it available, people will take advantage of it. And you will see more people coming to do just this. So that is something that you should consider.
Yep. Even to the point they would put in a septic system and running water and power for that period of time.
Oh, definitely, if they could permanently do this.
Oh, yeah, I'm 100% against the permanent, so I want to be clear. That's why I'm looking for a term. Because I think, I don't see anybody putting in a septic system and a tank and all that kind of stuff for a 2-year, 3-year permit thing, because that's a pretty big expense. So, yeah, I'm not on the side of indefinite.
Kind of really the only way is the conditional use permit, and it has to be approved. If you go to allowing it, it's like she's saying.
Well, like you said, with the conditional use, they have to notify everybody and let them know,
Yeah.
and they have their.
So here's the criteria you have to meet, but you have to get a conditional use permit first. Or conditional use.
Yeah, and I would be okay with the permit can be no longer than 24 months or whatever it is.
Well, that would be set by the board at the time. You know, given the situation, you know.
I think if you,
I think you need that number out there first. If
Yeah.
you don't, you're gonna have grandfather clauses all over the place.
right, because we're not gonna have a cap, and then he's gonna want 24 months, and I'm gonna want 48. You're gonna give it to me, then he's gonna come back and want 24 more. I think we gotta set a limit. Again, things happen, and I think if people are gonna go to this much extent to do this, then, again, whether it's a, parent or somebody you're trying to deal with, help support, you don't have the room, but you need them there close by or something. That's the biggest concern I have here is that kind of stuff. And, how do you help our residents in those situations versus just opening the door? I don't wanna have a Pandora's box either.
Would it affect your decision if somebody was trying to move it in for an elderly parent beside their already existing home and gonna put it there to keep grandma out of the nursing home so they can keep an eye on her versus somebody wanting to set it up in the middle of 5 acres that there's nothing built on?
I think again, it's all about the conditions, and this is what's so hard. If that's in a subdivision, they're gonna set it there for 5 years, then that's probably gonna be a problem for the residents around it. And we don't wanna try to create a bunch of ill will and hard feelings between all the neighbors there,
If it's
'cause
in a subdivision, like you're talking about, like a Pine Brook or,
Yeah.
stuff like that, I think there may be something that prohibits them from doing it anyway, right? So
hopefully. We had an HOA before where we
I doubt
lived,
you'll be able to set up a camper
and they lost the land, and the HOA dissolved with that. That was a whole nother mess. We went through all that, so that's why I'm not too trusting in the HOAs and all that other stuff, because they can go away, as I found out, so. You got a thing here that lets you do 12 months up to 18 if you're building a home. So that's one. But some people aren't looking to build a home when they're in those kind of conditions and situations, so. First question, I guess, is anybody else on the board in favor of allowing people to live in them?
not as a primary residence.
Right. So that could help clean it up some, because that's what this is allowing them to do.
Yeah, I thought when we broached this conversation a few weeks ago, it was more about like temporary, but getting in compliant with health and, safety
Right.
and all that.
And I think you still need to do that.
Helping people in hardship.
Right. And I think you could do that through this thing and some limitation.
Yeah, no, I don't envision allowing somebody to come out here and buy an acre or 10 acres or whatever and just go live in Haralson County for the next 40 years in a travel trailer,
Agree.
which is what you're saying. If we do that, then it's gonna welcome, they're coming.
They're coming.
Unless you put a conditional use on it and a time limit.
How's that affect your partner? Mr. Holsey? Well, I was,
Won't affect him
What'd you
none.
call him?
I said
Oh.
Holsey.
I thought you said Mr. Pickett a Porter. That's
Right,
appropriate.
it won't affect him any, in all actuality.
Right.
He's already made that an easy decision.
Yeah.
He sold his property here.
So what is the recommendation of the group then?
5 miles west.
I mean, I think it needs to be done through a conditional use permit. But I think each situation could be heard different. If you're building a house, that's one thing, it's easy to put a cap
Yeah,
on that.
that's simple.
If you're doing it because you already have a travel trailer and, you know, grandma's getting kicked out of her house because her property taxes are too high, and you're gonna let her live beside you because you don't have an extra bedroom, I mean, I'm not against that, you know?
Yep.
So I don't wanna, well, grandma's got a place to stay for 12 months, but then we gotta go do all this headache again and all, you know?
Right.
I don't foresee grandma getting in and out of a camper and taking a bath in a camper. I say,
You'd be surprised.
yeah,
My wife's grandmother does, every day.
lower your square footage. You know, in other words, we're gonna allow you to build a 6, 7, 800 square foot residential place here, but you got 18 months to get it up to whatever your code is, 1,000 square feet or whatever. Like I say, you're gonna put a septic tank, I'm gonna get water, and I'm gonna get power, man, I'm committed. I mean, you might as well go all in. Only thing that's gonna keep you from doing that is, I can buy this camper for $5,000.
I think the conditional use would cover you on that either, because then you have, you're doing this in the pretense that you're building your house, 18 months. You have that in that portion of it. Then the conditional use, you're gonna have to have certain amounts of things describing that eliminates the single occupancy of a travel trailer on a piece of property. The conditional use would be that it is adjacent to your primary residence for a certain use for it at a certain amount of time. There has to be that minimum primary residence there. Or you're building a primary residence. You can't have a vacant piece of property and just say, I'm gonna move the trailer in with all of this. You have to have all of this along with your already primary piece if you wanna move somebody next door.
That's right. Yeah, you already have
You
permitted
see,
power septic.
you word it to where you take it out that you have a piece of property and I'm gonna move my camper there and live in it. You already have to have the piece of property, primary residence, with a hardship for something that's coming to be placed with it, with your primary, that your structure's there, or you have the piece of property here that you're planning to build on, and you get your 18 months, it allows you to do all of that, to do that.
So when somebody comes and gets a building permit on a piece of land that doesn't require any zoning here interchange or anything like that, now on top of that building permit, they've got to get their conditional use permit to park a camper out there to build the house.
But we don't do that now.
No, you're allowed to do that while you're building the home now, right? 18 months, you're allowed to put it there during your construction for 18 months.
You have to buy your building permit, the whole package deal. You have to have your septic and water installed. And you can put your camper out there. You can start building. You have to have it, you have to show improvement every month.
Every 6 months.
But,
Every 6 months, you have to show some improvement.
but you have to have an inspection every 6 months. So you need to be showing improvement every month to get to where, because remember, you only have 18 months to get it done.
So now we're talking about two different things. You already got a plan in place, policy in place for this.
Correct. So now what you're trying to fix is for the marshal's plan, that,
Then I revert back to the way it was before we added this yellow stuff.
Yeah.
If that's what, I mean, if that's what we're gonna do. If we're not gonna permit or allow people just to, which I don't want to, just move in here in an RV, that's what the marshal was trying to do, is get the dilapidated stuff cleaned up.
correct, but you don't have an opportunity for somebody to move your travel trailer to your house to have the tiny home or that equity in there. It's what this is trying to do, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm misunderstanding that.
Yeah, that's what this was trying to address.
I don't think
Address.
that was I don't think that was a real problem that was gonna be really dealt with. Does that make sense? I don't think that was gonna go out there and tell grandma to get out, you know, unless it looks like crap.
But that's the thing, what's the guidelines that she can stay and I gotta go? That's where the,
Yeah, that's where
That's what this was trying to
That's what
do.
this is trying to do, is set a standard of what you can, to try to give him something. 'Cause right now, you don't have anything.
Then grandma does need to apply for a conditional use permit. And yeah, but it doesn't incorporate the building part of it for conditional use.
That is
That's
not the understanding that the yellow was doing. So
Right.
the yellow doesn't do the conditional use for grandma
I'm saying we're talking
or,
about two
yeah,
different
yeah.
things.
So if that's, we'll have to go back to the drawing board in terms of how it's drafted. It won't take a crazy amount of time. But there's nothing in front of you right now that will do what you're talking about, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, either way.
Yeah.
The conditional use or to help the marshal, there's nothing there.
Not with the yellow. The yellow's gone, the marshal has helped, but the conditional use doesn't exist.
If the yellow's gone, the marshal has helped.
Yes.
How?
what he'll do tomorrow, not tomorrow, but theoretically, tomorrow, any RV he sees anywhere in the county, he'll go tell them they got however long to move out of it.
Unless they're building a house.
Yeah, unless there's a active building permit.
And you can tell the difference between people that have set up camp to live there for a while versus this is a temporary, there's a distinct difference.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
And he is knowledgeable enough to know the difference.
Yeah, but there's also people that are not the ones that's making the difference, are knowledgeable enough to know that there's picking and choosing, and there's nothing in black and white of why he's picking and choosing.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you there. I mean, I think that's the only way to do it then, is they've already got a deal in place. If you're building a house, you can live in a camper for 18 months on said property, right?
Right,
So
that's
now-
clear.
Now we just need to create a policy through a conditional use permit that allows you to stay in an RV for that, the length of that conditional use permit. Right? That's,
Yeah, I think that's what everyone has been
Right.
discussing.
Yeah, that's my
I
thing.
do
It's gotta
agree.
have a length of time.
That you should probably set a time.
12 months,
Yep, I'm good with that.
and then you must reapply.
Because you still gotta put in the septic tank, running water, and a power pole.
Unless it's already there.
If it's already there, you gotta tie to it.
Yeah.
But you gotta come get a permit to tap on to have this thing. You still gotta get this permit to allow it to be used for 12 months.
The permit? Why?
Well, how else you gonna know they got it tied to the septic system and all? Because we're talking about when you come for conditional use, you gotta get some approval. And an approval for conditional use
It's
is
a
you
new
gotta have
setup, yeah.
these
I
things.
get you. Because I think this just says permitted power, right? How's it read?
Yeah, and I think in this one right here.
Got a little bitty one.
He's showing up.
Yeah, so you gotta have proof of a permitted power pole, permitted septic system, and running water. So if you already have all that,
That's the old stuff.
then there's no more,
Give you 2 cents. He stole mine.
yeah, I guess what I'm saying is it doesn't say it all has to be new. It doesn't have to be
No.
installed at the time of,
No,
yeah, okay. Well, I don't know if you had anything else to do this week, but no.
Nah.
So we're gonna ask that the attorney draft a conditional use or recreational vehicle ordinance? Is that what we're asking?
And it would just go under the conditional use.
Be added to that, yeah.
And the only restrictions that you currently have are that it needs to come, well, it's conditional use, so it comes before the board, but you want a 12-month term, and then they would have to come back. Everything else just has to comply with the rest of the residential requirements, because that's what conditional use usually
Yeah,
is.
and I'm good to put a year limit on the trailer too when you're doing that. Like when you're building a house, I get it, right? You're not
Well,
gonna
that
go out
won't
and
even be
spend.
affected. You won't have to ask for conditional
Right,
use on there.
but I'm
so
just
it's
saying, you
already-
wouldn't go out and spend 75,000 for when you're building a house for in 18 months. But at the same time, you don't want somebody going and spending $2,000 and just pulling it up somewhere. With the windows out and the cardboard up and tarps on it.
I mean, I think that's the only avenue for it. It allows a segue for it to happen, but it doesn't say you can come do it here.
Right. I mean, how many people for 12 months are gonna put in a septic tank system, get a power pole, and add running water? Because
Not
all
many
that's
people.
pretty expensive.
Knowing that in 12 months, you're gonna have to come back and be asked for it, for a continuance on it.
Yeah, you're looking at least $6,000-7,000 right there.
You did want to include that there's a minimum primary residence already on the property too. Was that everyone, or was that a one-off?
That was, I mean,
I don't think that's gotta be a stipulation, but to Jeff's point, who's gonna just spend the money to do it for a year?
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
so is there something that needs to be designated for that area?
well, I mean, we could put it in
You gonna have
the
that, you're
provision,
gonna have-
or it wouldn't necessarily make it through approval if you weren't. I don't know, I mean. I don't know.
What was the question again, Jason? I'm sorry.
Do you want, or you get, I mean, with that question, you have three scenarios. Vacant property with a conditional use every 12 months. You wanna move in beside an existing residence for a certain amount of time. There's nothing covering that. Correct?
Correct.
But then this other, you've got your house permit for the 18 months that you're there. So you got that scenario, a vacant land scenario, and one if you want to put it as an existing residence for somebody to live in. With the one putting in as a primary existing resident, putting in, there's nothing neither one of those other two cover. Unless there's a statement you could write in there for that to be that. Or are you saying that's got to come before the conditional zoning also?
Well, I think it's, and again, it would be up to the board, but if you come and apply for this and you're asking to live in a camper for 12 months, but there's no primary residence there, what's the reason? What's the hardship? Why are you wanting to do it? Okay, that makes sense. You're only gonna be here, I don't know any of the situation, but it's gonna be up to the will of the board, not necessarily worded. There has to already be an existing primary residence on the property.
Well, I know in Colorado, Postville, there was a house or a trailer burnt down, there's a camper sits there now, it's been there probably 3 years. Still sits there, nothing been done, just a camper sitting there.
But to what Greg's saying, if you wanna spend the money to put in a new septic system and all that, obviously it wouldn't be there because there's not an existing primary residence, then more power to you, but you can only stay there 12 months. Should you get approved to do so.
Or, I mean, again, it's a whole thing, right? You can't just say, take it to a RV park, set it up there, and do whatever you're gonna do.
But you can't find them. Can't find.
Long-term, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't find not supposed to be long-term.
I think it's 15 days, isn't it?
I suggest County buy Jacksonville Road down there where they shut that one down. We'll make it temporary hardship camp. But, when you say primary residence, like, like say, my mother got hardship, she'd come live in my camper. But then, like I told you, that guy asked the other day about wanting to build some tiny homes on his property for residual income. You know, you allowing this lady to stay in your camper that's 400 square feet, but I can't build a 600 square foot apartment or whatever you wanna call it, a little tiny home thing, and let people rent it.
Well, I think it's about the proof of the hardship.
Yeah.
Not for supplemental income, you know?
What does that set us up for, though, for the attorney, right? When this group is deciding that hardship qualifies and that one doesn't.
Yeah, that would require some language, and that is
Slippery slope.
uncomfortable
Yep.
from a legal perspective.
I think if you're gonna do it, you gotta do the condition, again, if we're gonna do it, conditional use permit with a time limit regardless of whatever. You gotta have the septic system and all that stuff. Cause to Bill's point, if a trailer burns down and you're trying to save them enough money to get a down payment to replace it, clean it up, whatever, you already got the septic system, you already got the power. You're gonna come and apply for it for 12 months, get it set up, and then by that time, you gotta have a building permit to do something.
I think that you can probably put some language about it not being income property or something along those
I would agree
lines.
with that. Yeah, that's not the reason it should be done. Shouldn't be renting them out. It can't be an income.
Well, it's gotta be related to the promotion of public health, safety, morals, or general welfare to meet the conditional use
Right.
definition. I don't see how you're renting it out that qualifies for any of that.
I agree. I think just putting the stipulation in there just gives more clarity that you can't rent it.
It's not a, I'm not trying to create an Airbnb.
I mean,
Can't do Airbnbs in Harris County?
I don't know.
and I think we need to do it.
Actually do.
Yeah. But I think we need to do
I'm
it.
talking about,
'cause-
we're not trying to give a
Yeah.
conditional use permit for
Yeah.
you to set up a permanent Airbnb.
Well, on my road, where I
Like
go
there is
home
in-
every day, there were at one time, three RVs backed up against a house. And I know they were being used for rental type stuff, right? So that's the kind of stuff that, again, I understand the marshal completely, right? They're not on septic system, don't have power, all this kind of stuff. Things are not like would be required of somebody building a house, so.
Well, again, this is gonna allow one per parcel, right?
Yeah, the conditional use requires that you do all these things and then get approval for it. Again,
Is that statement gonna be approval of this board, or is this board recommending board as it is, and approval goes to the commissioners?
that's it. We recommend they approve.
Okay.
With the conditional use language to be
Right.
drafted by the county attorney. Okay. Just
Are you-
making sure that's
wait.
part of the,
Yeah, yeah, no, what we're saying is like if somebody comes and we say, yeah, we think this conditional use should be approved,
oh, okay.
we recommend it, we don't approve it. Still has to go to the commissioners. Approve.
Y'all wanna bounce that ball anymore, or y'all good?
I think I'm good, and if we don't like the way it's written right
Yeah,
now, we've
that's
got
what
the
I'm
chance to
saying,
strike.
somebody's earning their money.
I mean, you got the opportunity to strike it at the next one and say we don't approve the revision and
At
just.
some point, she's gonna like, it's enough. You're gonna- There it is.
Cut it off.
When is the next meeting?
Sir, did you have anything you wanted? All right, just ask, cause usually nobody ever shows up, so. I got you. I completely agree.
Understand?
So are y'all wanting to vote at the next hearing, or the next meeting, or are we gonna need to put it on?
On the bylaws,
Yeah, bylaws, I think we can vote on them on
Or y'all
this.
wanna-
But we're
If she
gonna- so we'll-
redrafts this into, or you wanna read it? Or you
I
wanna
think,
see
yeah,
it?
you're gonna wanna read it.
yeah, I wanna see it.
I'm just asking a question.
Yeah, no, I think the bylaws you could easily put in the
Yeah.
next one to do and send on.
I can run this one in the paper, we can vote on the next one, and then discuss it.
Y'all got anything else? If not, you do?
No,
Okay. We can adjourn.